Stop. Enough of that frivolity. Important messages to get through. Thank you very much, Holly and William. And thank you to Kishori and Hanjan for the readings earlier. Now, this seems to be giving some jip. Obviously underinvested in technology. Welcome to Parents' Day 2016. The decision of a headmaster of Bootham to leave has national, no, it's a political joke, not an R call. We do it again. The decision of a headmaster to leave has national and international repercussions. It has brought down the Prime Minister. The only trouble with that one, it makes me look like Michael Gove, which is kind of awful. And it's mortally wounded the leader of the opposition. It has destroyed the England football coach and opened the possibility of a government led by Michael Gove. I do apologise. The prospect of a rural retreat in deepest Cornwall gets more attractive every day. It's always good to let people have a yes-no vote on complex political questions. After all, the Boaty McBoatface debacle made it perfectly clear that the people will take such responsibilities seriously. It's so much better than relying on expert knowledge, learning, authority, responsible research. So confident am I in the power of plebiscites that I thought we would have one now. The question is simple. Do you want to hear the rest of what I'm going to say? That's remain. Or shall we pack up now and go and have coffee? That's leave. So, those in favour of remain. Those in favour of leave. Take that girl's name, would you, Suzanne, please? Okay, so it was either going to be thank you and goodbye, or Hanjan and Holly have got some material that we need to introduce at this point. I'd just like to take this opportunity then, thank you for voting for Remain. I'd like to take this opportunity just to run through one or two of the achievements of the last 12 years. Good joke, wasn't it? It was a gag, a visual gag. Thank you, Hanjan, small boy. I told you that plebiscites were dangerous things, but I don't actually want to emphasise the looking back. The achievements of the last 12 years are either all around us and viewable during the rest of the day, or they are memories which we can access whenever we want. Allow me, though, to acknowledge two things which are not immediately visible. The first is the support of Quakers in Yorkshire, our overseeing body. They provide us with the majority of our governors and all of our clerks to committee or chairs of governors. The work of governor is important, rewarding, and I hope stimulating, but it does take commitment and time. So thank you, Quakers in Yorkshire and all our governors. Secondly, I would like to mention the York Independent State School Partnership, which has done far more than I ever imagined it would when I set it up 10 years ago. The partnership now provides an annual masterclass program, exam courses, a summer school, an autumn residential. We have taken students overseas and linked with undergraduates in York and in Russia. Students have learnt about social action, sustainability, and leadership. The partnership, which includes all the secondary schools in York bar one, and now some primary schools as well, has involved over 5,000 students, and for some of them has been a life-changing experience. The partnership has fostered professional and personal networks of teachers, breaking down prejudice and misunderstanding. As education in York becomes more and more fractured as state schools join or create different academy chains, the network of the ISSP becomes even more important for the students in the city. Bootham's leading role makes an important statement about the kind of school we are. Not much looking backwards then, but I have rehashed some of the slides from my previous Parents' Day talks so you can have something to look at if you're bored. They are a mixture of pictures of students and of buildings with a horse and a horse skeleton to look out for, a reminder of love marks, and my visit to Nigeria. These things you will either remember or not. They are interspersed with some very fine portraits of me. We will return to them later. I'd like to say a few words about the paradox of change. A new leader at Bootham creates something of a concern. Parents are worried. Staff are too, though their concern is tempered by feelings of relief, excitement, and optimism that things can only get better. Everyone is aware of the possibility of losing something that is familiar and comforting. I am the 11th head of Bootham since its foundation in 1823. I suspect that the fear of change, the loss of something precious, has increased throughout the history of the school, just as, paradoxically, the need for change has become imperative. League tables, the well-being agenda, safeguarding, inspection, or even curriculum change were not prominent concerns at any time during John Ford's 37 years of headship in the 19th century. But nowadays, if Bootham is to function as a school, then change is the very business in which it must engage. And it needs to equip its students with all the mental capacity and resilience to cope with, manage, and lead change themselves. We have in the past 12 years made enormous changes to the school estate, to our employee body, to our ways of working, our curriculum and our timetables, and our management structures. We have responded to requirements for new examinations, inspection, and regulatory regimes. Our governing body has changed in personnel and in its structures. Every year, a quarter of our students in the senior school are new. Bootham is a remarkably fluid and adaptable institution. So I see the arrival of a new head as a happy chance to re-energize and focus on change, get the place working better, get rid of things that have served their turn, introduce initiatives and new opportunities. Every year I tell the students that the school is theirs, it's not mine. In the staff room we watch as our new colleagues set the pace, new leaders emerge to develop new strands and weave new colourful patterns in the Bootham broadcloth. But there is something which runs through the life of Bootham and remains constant in the face of all the change. There is some element which we recognise and which remains the reason why you, parents, send your children to be educated here. And it has never ceased to excite me as head. What it is, of course, is what we call Oh, there it is. That's the one you've been waiting for. Staggeringly handsome. Oh, there we go. What it is, of course, is what we call the ethos of the school. One of my many failings as head is indicated by the fact that people are still asking me to articulate clearly what it is that makes Bootham different, as if it's somehow reducible to a soundbite and also somehow in the gift of the head. I've strongly resisted both elements of that analysis. But let's have a final go at summoning up and summing up the magic of a Bootham education. It starts with the Quaker premise that there is something of God in everyone. Understood properly and acted upon, that is a really revolutionary way of thinking about our fellow humans. We try to look for the best in people. We try to be patient with error and mistake. We try to see each student as unique and individually talented. There is no competition. No one can be you as well as you. So our work as teachers is to allow each student to become whatever he or she is meant to become. We remember that each student has enormous and unknowable potential. We see glimpses of this all the time. At Sports Day, we saw great athletic achievement, but we also cheered loudly and without irony in genuine affection for the runner coming in miles behind the winner, someone who had volunteered to take part. Your potential isn't just the capacity to be great, it's the capacity to be you. We've seen it several times in morning meeting this year, where students have boldly stood up and made the case for refugees, for gender equality and tolerance. Our Bootham Challenge presentation evening, that stays up there for a long time, so just feast your eyes. There is a story. Shall I tell that story? No, I won't tell that story. Okay. It's all right, Sarah, I won't tell that story. Our Bootham Challenge presentation evening on Thursday demonstrated how students are talented in ways beyond the classroom and are actively developing a rich portfolio of life skills and experiences to add to their academic qualifications. One of the best things of being ahead is watching the students grow and change. We fear the loss of a brilliantly talented generation of sports people or musicians or actors or mathematicians, only to find, of course, that another generation is ready to pick up the baton, whether that's musical or athletic. But we don't celebrate only those who do phenomenally well. We celebrate everyone. Everyone has the gold medal, the Nobel Prize, the world record for being themselves. So each year we lose something unique. Each year we replace it with something equally and brilliantly different. And this is the Quaker testimony of equality. One of the qualities I most enjoy about a Bootham education is its low-key, natural, everyday sort of character. It seems to me so important, I'm saying this here now, it seems to me so important that we can come to school underdressed, not puffed up in blazers and badges and ties. We can, of course, wear those things if we wish. Education is about relationships and well-being is internal, not put on from a wardrobe. It's the cliche about being happy in your own skin. And this is one part of the Quaker testimony of simplicity. However, you will all know that I like a good pair of shoes and a colourful shirt. And you might remember that dressing up is a recurrent theme in these Parents' Day talks. So there's a paradox. How do I square dressing up with honesty and straightforwardness? Didn't early Quakers dress in grey and eschew variety and decoration? I am essentially still a child. I haven't even left school yet. The portraits on the screen are part of the same idea. Dressing up allows us to demonstrate different sides of our characters, explore different roles, be different people. And that's what a good education encourages too. It isn't being untruthful, it's acknowledging that we are complex and sophisticated people with many different kinds of language to learn and articulate. Life is too complicated for one set of clothes. We shouldn't restrict ourselves to a uniform. When I was a child, really, my parents were very good at telling me and my sisters that when we grew up, we could be anything, do any job. There was no limit. So at Bootham, giving no hierarchy to its amazing array of opportunities, making none of them either the best thing to do or the only thing to do, Bootham offers each student the chance to try things out. You can play sport, you can sing in the choir, you can be on the council, you can do D&E. You can fail too, or change your direction of travel. It's all right. We can all venture, we can all gain. And we don't need to take ourselves terribly seriously because then the stakes are too high for risk and daring. When I leave Bootham, there are many more things to do, many activities to start, lots of interests to pursue. Education doesn't end when you leave school, even if you don't leave school till you're 60. So just to try to prevent the inevitable questions about what are you going to do when you leave, let me say this. We're going to, apart from that, we're going to move to our house in Cornwall, which is too small, so we're going physically as a family to build an extension designed by our eldest son, Josh. We're going to sail. Oh dear, perhaps we're not. Can you wind it on a little bit? Oh, there we are. We're going to sail the boat my father made when he retired back in the 1980s. That's Cornwall. That's Cornwall. It's not Greece, that's Cornwall. It's always like that in Cornwall. I hope to do some writing. We'll be travelling. We'll be enjoying the months of September and June, which we've missed out on since we first went to school in about 1960. And I hope to welcome many visitors to share coastal walks, beautiful beaches, and the array of artistic and cultural wonders of the far southwest. Sorry, that's gone ahead. Oh dear, that's tricky. Finally, can I say a big thank you to everyone who makes Bootham happen? I'm not going to name people, you are all included. The teaching staff, expert, patient, innovative, generous, support staff who do so well, all those things which enable teachers to get on with teaching and students with learning, parents who choose Bootham and support Bootham in every way they can. And of course, our students. Once, when inspection was due, I asked you to be yourselves, but better. And of course they were and they are. And thank you to William Davidson for sending me that cartoon just this week. Isn't that fantastic? Those early interviews, you remember those when you first come into my office. It's thanks to all of you that Bootham is the best school in the world. It's been a delight and a privilege and a whole load of fun to serve as head for the last 12 years. One of the things I've done as a head is to mentor others new to the position. These people new to the role are enthusiastic, energetic, and full of ideas. I usually have to tell them to slow down, help them realize that they cannot change a school's culture all at one go. I used to say, remember that headship is a marathon, not a sprint. I now know that it isn't either. Headship isn't a race because there's no finish line at which you can say that the job is completed. All one can do is look after a school for a period and hand it on in, you hope, good condition to the next person. Some of you may know the cheesy advert. Some of you may know the cheesy advert for Patek Philippe watches. with its slogan, "You never really own a Patek Philippe, you merely look after it for the next generation." That's how it's been with Bootham. I've never really owned it, merely looked after it for the next generation. Thank you and goodbye.